And I'm talking about microalgae. That's right, almost invisible to the eye. Microalgae are one of the most potent, extraordinary sources of bioactives on the planet. And today, we're going to share with what it can do for you. All right, welcome back. And Vincent, great to be here. Thank you so much for hosting us.
Thank you, Steve.
This is going to be an exciting hour. So, let's dive right in. What the heck are algae?
So algae and microalgae specifically are single-cell plants that are living in aquatic environments, in different environments. You can find them in the seawater, in fresh water, but also in some specific environments such as tundra, Arctic tundra as well, in the desert as well. So pretty much everywhere. So they are there on Earth for billion years. Actually, they are at the origin of the oxygen that we breathe in the atmosphere. They are also at the origin of the fuel that we put in our cars, because as a fossilized biomasses, they have generated oil that we are producing today naturally. So that's extremely interesting to think of those benefits for the humankind that the microalgae have delivered so far. So that's what are microalgae.
So microalgae, they're single-celled organisms. A lot of people can think of a bacteria as a single-cell organism.
Yeah.
But they're kind of like bacteria, but they can have photosynthesis. They can use sunlight
Exactly.
and CO2 to produce oxygen, right?
Exactly. That's the process that we call photosynthesis. And microalgae are plants, so they are plant-based, meaning that they are able to use the light, the light from the sun, to convert this energy from the light and the CO2 and some minerals into biomass and oxygen. So in this biomass specifically, there is a different bioactives, an amazing diversity of bioactive that those different species can deliver.
Now, some people think about algae and they say, oh, seaweed. But seaweed is not algae. It's a bigger form, I guess.
Yes, exactly. That's bigger form of microalgae. Actually, microalgae are the foundation of all plants on Earth. Some become seaweed and they stay in the aquatic environment. Some different species become specifically the green microalgae become the terrestrial plant that we know and that are surrounding us on a daily basis. So microalgae are the foundation of all plants on Earth. Hence, you can find pretty much everything that is in the plants, in the seaweed, is also in the microalgae at the origin, as a starting point, I would say.
So how would microalgae be used in our everyday life? How would I be interacting with it without my knowledge?
So, as I said, first you breathe every day. So you use the air which by almost 1/3 of the Earth of the oxygen which is present in the atmosphere is produced by the natural microalgae which are everywhere. So that's first benefit, as I said. But on your daily life, microalgae products are increasingly used in food, cosmetic products. So you have some natural colorants that are made from microalgae. You have some antioxidants, natural antioxidants that are used in different food supplements, dietary supplements worldwide. And that's something which is gaining some interest because there are plenty of biological properties that are scientifically demonstrated now.
So, can we use these as fuel?
Yeah, you could. Actually, that's possible because microalgae are extremely rich in oil. So you could extract oil from those biomasses and turn them into biofuels. Obviously, this is not what we are doing here. What we do is really specific ingredients, specialty ingredients, but by essence, yes, you can really use microalgae to produce oil
And there
at a
are
certain
some
scale.
companies that are actually looking into that.
Yes, indeed. So you need really, it's require a lot of space, of volume, and also to be cost effective, because obviously the fuel that you put in your tank has to at a lower price, even though at current time the price is kind of going up, but still producing it by microalgae is still a little bit expensive. So I think, in my opinion at least, we have 10 to 15 years of research to have some reliable source of biofuels from microalgae.
So a lot of my listeners know about spirulina and chlorella.
Yes.
And people associate spirulina and chlorella with health benefits. Is that just scratching the surface of what you're doing?
Yes, exactly. I think spirulina and chlorella are great products, really great products. They are rich in protein, rich in vitamins and minerals. But that's just two species among the 10,000, hundreds of thousands of species that are rich in other compounds, new compounds that are delivering new and innovative benefits for nutrition and cosmetic. So spirulina and chlorella are, yes, the two most known species in the microalgae world, an extremely good product, but they are just really the tip of the iceberg, I would say. So, yeah.
So, in fact, you and I are sitting in front of one of your bioreactors, and people, I hope are seeing this in the camera. This is not what most of us think of as algae. It's not green. In fact, it's reddish brown, I guess is a nice way of saying it. And you're actually growing algae here that are different colors. And tell me, why would you be interested in a red-brown algae instead of a green chlorella?
Yeah, the color is just a vision that you have, and we relate the color to a specific bioactive, of course, because the color of the microalgae are made by the photosynthetic pigment that they are featuring, and those photosynthetic pigments are really unique and are really dependent on the condition where the microalgae is living. So, as you know, obviously, the green microalgae are in a specific environment that you can find in the sea, in the ponds, in the lakes, etc., and the rivers. Whereas you have in the sea, in the oceans, some different layers of water to which the light from the sun can go through to a certain wavelength, and that will trigger on the microalgae a specific photosynthetic pigment that will absorb the color, the specific color related to this pigment. So what you see here, the red-brown microalgae, is the ability of this microalgae to live in a specific environment and to develop specific compounds thanks to this environment. So we are really interested in those microalgae, green, brown, diatoms, any kind of species that can deliver those bioactives, and they do that thanks to the ability of adapting themselves to their environments, thanks to the metabolic pathway that they will implement.
So, on a segue to that, a lot of people now know that we can genetically engineer bacteria to produce compounds. Many people know that most insulin is produced by bacteria who have been genetically engineered. There's nothing genetically engineered behind you, right? I mean, no. You're not telling microalgae by manipulating their genome to make a compound.
No, we don't need that. Actually, we learn from them how to extract naturally the bioactives. So we are just at the start of the domestication of the microalgae. That's a new industry which is arriving now, and that's something that we learn from the algae, from the environment in which they live. And what we try to do here, we try to apply the culture conditions that are mimicking the natural condition where they live in order to maximize the biological potential of each microalgae. So we don't need to use any genetic modification. We just have to use and to understand how the microalgae naturally develop their bioactive.
So does your company, and I asked this off camera, does your company go out and find an algae that maybe wasn't known about what it did, and you grow it here, and then you extract the bioactive compounds, and you go, oh my gosh, look, this is an exciting compound. We know about this compound, but we had no idea it was in this. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, we do that, but we do actually we do both things. We are able to screen the natural environment. Some in new environments, so we did some screening in Corsica, in French Guiana, in other places in the world as well. But we do that with the universities, with academic partners that are accessing some new strain, some new environment, and we are more there just to identify the strain, to clean it up from the other single cells that are around it, and to make sure to fully characterize it and to make it grow. So our job is more to really to make sure that from one cell that we have identified, we are able to develop a process that can make a real quantity of biomass to develop those ingredients. So yes, we can work from nature, identify in nature in new environments some specific strain. But we do also work with some strain collection that are owned by university everywhere in the world. You have one in Texas University, which is a famous one in the States, but you have a different strain collection in Europe, in Japan, from which we source different microalgae, and we will screen 10, 15 different microalgae on a specific project that we have in mind, which is designed by the marketing and the science team at Microfit. So obviously every ingredient that we want to launch, we have a specific idea in mind to deliver a specific nutritional benefit or cosmetic benefit.
So I think people want to know, aside from eating algae, what sort of micronutrients, bioactive compounds, are in microalgae that we should know about and we should be using?
So microalgae are extremely diversified. So there are 20,000, probably more, bioactive compounds in microalgae. But there are some specific compounds that you can find only in microalgae, such as probably the most known are omega-3 fatty acids. Those are the essential lipids, as you know. So microalgae are the only living organism able to produce naturally those omega-3 fatty acids that have a lot of benefits on the cardiovascular health, on the general health, mental health, brain health, etc. So that's one example of those specific bioactive. And the second example is specific pigment, such as fucoxanthin. Fucoxanthin is a specific xanthophile. It's a type of pigment that the microalgae use to capture the light on a specific wavelength. And this fucoxanthin molecule, you can only find it in the marine environment and originally from the microalgae, specifically diatoms and brown microalgae. So this pigment, fucoxanthin, is really something of interest for us at Microfit. We have developed product out of fucoxanthin, specifically BrainFit. But it's something which is really unique and on which we have invested a lot of energy to develop a sustainable process to produce it.
And you're also using these compounds in cosmetics.
Yeah.
Why would I want to smear algae on my face?
That's a good question. It's true that as soon as you are using natural ingredients, you will have to manage color, taste, possibly when you taste it, or odor that may be different from what you are using on a daily life. And the idea is for us, of course, as our job is to provide ingredients that are easy to use for our customers, to develop a formulation that are incorporating our ingredients that are totally odorless, that have a nice color, that are stable also over time in different conditions, making sure that when you apply the ingredient in a formulated product, in a cosmetic cream, that's extremely nice to apply. You will test that in our lab later.
So, algae obviously absorb sunlight, and these pigments absorb sunlight.
Yes.
So, wouldn't it be great to have an algae pigment on my skin when I'm out exposed to the sun?
That's great.
Sounds like a good idea.
That's an extremely good idea, and it's actually what we do here at Microfit is that we are extracting specific pigments from this microalgae, by the way, which is it's a red microalgae.
So, algae are good for the environment, right? They absorb CO2, and they don't use much water. Is that right? They don't drink a lot?
No, they don't drink a lot. Actually, they just use water to live and to develop themselves, but they are not consuming water, such as like cereal, for instance, which are having a large water use, or cotton that we are using for textile fibers. What we use here specifically at Microfit, the way we produce is a controlled environment where the water and the mineral salt are recycled, so we are not using so much water compared to other crops and other plant productions. And yes, you're right, the way we try to produce microalgae at Microfit is really in a sustainable mode, using the natural light but also artificial light made from renewable energy. And we are producing, so thanks to this light, the microalgae will convert the CO2 into biomass and oxygen. At a global scale today, all the microalgae that are present in the environment, in the oceans, in the lakes and the rivers, are consuming 1/3 of the total CO2 from all the plants. So it's quite significant. And they have the ability to capture a lot of CO2. Yeah.
Now, you received a large grant from the EU here at Microfit. Tell us, we saw the building going up as we entered. What was this grant for? What are you doing?
The grant was a very nice achievement from the team, because it was a recognition by the EU that what we are doing is really what they call the flagship technology for European industry. So we get this award last year, which is a 15 million grant, which is one of the most selective process in Europe to get this grant. And we get it last year with the objective to develop a first of its kind plant, what we call a bioraffinery, meaning that we are able to produce a large number of microalgae at Microfit. We are producing between 10 and 15 microalgae, different new microalgae new to the world. From those microalgae, we are able to develop specific extraction process, sustainable processes that are deliver new product, new ingredients. So the idea and the concept of this scale program that we call is to really be able to have a platform of production at scale, which is implementing sustainable process for nutrition, food, cosmetic, but also animal nutrition. So we have partners around that, and we will develop one of the biggest plants of microalgae, which will have unique properties.
I think it's a good point. You can grow algae as food, either for us, but particularly for animals.
Yeah.
I think most people don't realize that fish are recipients of eating microalgae.
Yes.
And as my viewers know, you are what you eat, but you are what the thing you're eating ate. And feeding either fish or animals algae may have huge benefits for us, both in it doesn't cost a lot of land mass and a lot of fertilizer to produce biomass with algae, yeah?
Yeah.
And the benefit then is in all these bioactive compounds. So is that why the EU is so interested? Because we can't feed ourselves if we keep doing what we're doing.
Exactly. The EU was really is interested in this process. Microalgae are the primary producer of essential nutriments. So we talk about the omega-3 fatty acids, but also some mineral salts, some specific pigments such as phytoxanthin. And as you said, those are at the basis of the food chain in the natural environment. So what we are doing here is a kind of shortcut where we are providing directly to the consumers through our partners, through food supplement labs, through cosmetic partners, cosmetic brands. We provide a shortcut to this extraordinary, amazing diversity of bioactive that the microalgae can deliver. So yeah, we skip the rest of the food chain, I would say, meaning that we save also for the humanity the land which is used, we save a lot of water, a lot of energy, so we try to rationalize everything like that. That's the idea.
Now I know a lot of your products are extracted from the algae.
Yeah.
And when people hear extraction in the United States, they worry about harsh chemicals like benzene, like chemicals that are also going to be harmful to us and the environment. You don't do anything like that here.
No. It's we made the choice since the inception of microfeed to only use green solvents, meaning water and ethanol, which is a biosourced ethanol, and that's the two solvents that we are using, and that's more than enough actually, because as you have seen in our factory, by playing on the different parameters, the physical properties of the algae, you are able to extract pretty much everything you need without any harsh chemicals, anything that could be harmful to the environment and also to the workers that are there, and obviously the consumer. So no, we are just using green solvent, and we are also recycling those solvents right now. So we are also limiting our environmental impact and the consumption of those products.
And one of the things we were touring your lab, your hatchery, your incubator, and one of the interesting things is each algae has its own wants in terms of how much carbon dioxide it likes, how much light it likes, and you actually find out the needs of each algae. So you're not just pumping red sludge through these tubes. You found out what this wants to grow.
Yes, exactly. It's a little bit more complicated than than that, and that's part of our expertise, I would say. That's why also we were recognized by the EU and by also some other partners to have this expertise on the understanding how the microalgae grow in the best environment possible, making sure that we are extracting out of those biomasses ingredients that are safe, that are effective, and that are sustainably produced. So this is the objective of microfeed. But you're right, for each of those species we need to develop specific processes, and this is our expertise to understand how to grow the algae by combining the mineral salt, the light, the level of CO2 that we will add in the air that the microalgae will use. So everything, all those parameters are monitored, and we develop the processes for each of those microalgae.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. So, folks, this is not pond scum that they're pumping around here. This is actually really deep science, and the beauty of what you're doing is you're selecting a species of algae or multiple algae for a compound that has either known human benefit or a compound that you suspect is going to have a great human benefit because of what you observe in nature. And now you can grow this at scale rather than just in a test tube.
Exactly. That is always part of the strategy of microfit, to be able to, from what we do at the lab, to be able to make it at the industrial scale, because ultimately we want to deliver ingredients that are at sufficient volume to be used by our customer, by the food supplement labs, by the cosmetic brands. So that's always part of our R&D development, to think in terms of industrialization and scale up of the processes. That's really part of our DNA. But that's the production part, which is really at the center of strategy, but also this is not enough. What we do as well is to make sure that what we develop as ingredients are effective, are obviously safe, are regulatory approved, but also are effective for our customers and ultimately to the consumer. So we develop also the studies, the science around the ingredients in order to make sure that what we can use is really useful and helpful to the benefit of the consumer.
Well, so let's talk about one of your new novel compounds for human nutrition, and it's called BrainFit. Tell me about the key molecules that make up BrainFit.
So it's a combination of at least 3 key molecules. The first one, and I already mentioned about it, is fucoxanthin, which is a specific bioactive, a specific pigment from the diatom, a microalgae called Phaeodactylum tricornitum, and this microalgae is naturally producing this fucoxanthin. So fucoxanthin is extremely powerful in terms of its natural antioxidant properties. Another one is an omega-3 fatty acid called EPA, which is also has some specific biological properties. And a third family of compounds is called phycoprostane. And phycoprostane are really specific molecules that you can only find in BrainFit. That's a derivative from omega-3 fatty acids and that are also delivering specific benefits. So the combination of those 3 molecules in BrainFit deliver the result, the scientific result that we have demonstrated on brain health.
Yeah, you know, I think these are very important points for my viewers, that, you know, plants, particularly algae, as strange as it may seem, have to have sunlight, but sunlight, the photons in sunlight, are damaging to the cellular process of algae, to their mitochondria, which are called chloroplasts. So they produce these compounds to, you know, stop that damage from sunlight. And to me, the exciting thing is that when we eat those compounds, or you produce these compounds in a supplement, that we know from my last book, Unlocking the Keto Code, that those phenols, those polyphenols that the plants have produced to protect their mitochondria, we then get the benefit by protecting our mitochondria when we eat these plants. And it's, you know, it all comes around in a full circle. You're right. We're, as much as we don't realize, we're dependent on these processes. So good for you. The other thing I want to talk about, we were talking off camera, we're beginning to realize how little we know about the nutritional aspects of algae. And I brought up an experiment in dolphins in the United States. The United States has dolphin colonies for the U.S. Navy, and I won't go into why. But there's a pod of dolphins in the Atlantic Ocean and a pod of dolphins in the Pacific Ocean. And they're the same species, bottlenose dolphin. But the Pacific dolphins age quite rapidly, and the Pacific dolphins get all the diseases of the West. They get diabetes, they get old age, they don't think very clearly. But the Atlantic dolphins don't. They don't acquire these. And yet they're the same breed. They live essentially the same salt water. And these researchers realized that the dolphins on the Atlantic were eating totally different fish than the dolphins in the West Coast in the Pacific. And when they broke down the compounds in these fish, they actually found some odd chain fatty acids that were very prevalent in the diet of the Atlantic dolphins, but not in the Pacific dolphins. And it's like, oh my gosh, you're on the right track. If we need to identify those compounds. Speaking of which, we know the Japanese, who eat a lot of seaweed and a lot of seafood, have much higher levels of fucoxanthin in them than we do. And they're very smart. So I need fucoxanthin, right?
We all need.
We all need.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's just this compound in algae.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting situation there. This is true that you can really, from the diet that you have, really understand also the environment in which you live. So that's important to be connected to this environment, of course, and to understand what you can get from the food that you have. So part of the strategy, of course, from the dietary supplement industry is also to bring some additional bioactive to the food to help people to get what they have to do from what they have to get from the food in case it's not available in the natural food that they are using every day. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all cannot move to Japan or to the south of France and eat the fish that you eat. I'd love to, and I do. But yeah, for me, as a supplement company, we all can't do that. And so if we can deliver the active ingredients that we now know are why the health benefit of a Mediterranean diet, for instance, or an Okinawan diet in Japan, in something that people can take as a supplement, then we all benefit. And obviously, that's what you want to do.
Exactly.
So what else? So all right, you're going to feed the world. You're going to take care of us and our brains. What other exciting product are you doing here?
We have plenty of new products in the pipeline. At the moment, we are working on 35 different new ingredients, both for nutrition and cosmetics. So we have plenty of things that will be launched over the next few years. The next one in nutrition we'll have an holistic approach on the sport nutrition, because we are understanding that sport nutrition is just not sport, it's also the way that we feel, we react, we interact with other people. So we have a product which is called PhycoActive that will be launched next year, I hope, that will under development at the moment at Microfit, that will target this category of holistic sport nutrition. That's a new product after BrainFit. But we have also a range of skincare ingredients that are in development, and we launched last month Luteana, which is an ingredient targeting the sensitive skin, which is obviously a huge issue in the world. So that's an ingredient that has received also some award from a cosmetic industry, and it's really, really promising. And the first ingredient that we add in cosmetic, it's called Renouvelance, and Renouvelance is targeting what we call the urban stress protection. So that's one of those examples of ingredients that protect the skin from the effect of UVs and pollution together. So that's the new ingredient that we have launched just this year.
So can you get too much of a good thing? Can I eat too much microalgae? Do you go home for dinner and have a big plate of microalgae? I guess I'm asking.
I would not recommend so, but I think The idea of course, what we do at Microfit is we develop ingredients that have to be used at a specific dose, and the efficacy of those ingredients are developed on a specific dosage, which is scientifically established. So you have to follow the instruction of use that the food supplement company are providing on the labels. So that's something which is quite straightforward. And it's really recommended to use that at the level of which you will benefit from, obviously, full safety, but also the efficacy of the ingredient.
All right, so we're about out of time, but we have an audience question on every one of our podcasts. And this one, I want you to answer as well, and I'll give my opinion. So the audience question comes from Jeanette Jenke on YouTube. Dr. Joe TV, there is such a thing, says spirulina contains pseudo vitamin B12, which is bad. It competes with real vitamin B12 and blocks it to enter the cell. What say you? All right, Vincent, what do you think?
I would agree. I know that to my knowledge at least, I know that the vitamin B12 in spirulina is this pseudo vitamin B12. So I think it's probably not really useful to consume spirulina in case you would like to get some vitamin B12. But in microalgae, you may find some B12, natural source of B12 that are not pseudo B12 that we can use. Yes.
Great answer. Yeah, it was actually thought by vegans for many years, up until about the year 2000, that the B12 in spirulina was available and was B12, and it's not. The good news is about half of us, or bad news is about half of us can have a genetic mutation that prevents us from taking vitamin B12 and converting it into methyl B12, which is an active form. So all of my patients, I have them take a methyl B12 sublingually, put it under their tongue. But no, you can have the spirulina, but please supplement with methyl B12. And we can measure this in everybody's blood, and it's amazing how many people are deficient in methyl B12, even among those who are taking B12. So just supplement with it. It's the easiest way. Well, Vincent, this has been great. Where can listeners learn more about you and Microfit?
Well, so the idea, of course, is to get in touch and to check out our website and to subscribe on our LinkedIn page. You have also a newsletter, so you can get a lot of information on our new product development, the new product launches that will come in the next few months and years. And obviously, you can meet us in any industry trade show, consumer show in the US and in the Europe.